I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network, the founder of the pillow company, Mike Lindell, the fascist pillow guy who Donald Trump has endorsed to lead the Republican National Committee, was just sanctioned by a federal magistrate judge in Michigan, in the Western District of Michigan, in connection with his burdensome fishing expedition where he's basically subpoenaed all of these counties across the country to try to gain access to their electronic data storage from county voting machines and servers, and get security keys and passwords and other proprietary software from Dominion in connection with the federal lawsuit that was filed against him in Washington, D.C. federal court, which he previously lost his motion to dismiss in, where Dominion sued him for defamation in connection with his defamatory statements relating to Dominion in the 2020 election, and frankly, his ongoing defamatory statements, since Lindell continues to make these egregious false statements about Dominion and others. So originally, this lawsuit was filed shortly after the insurrection by Dominion. Mike Lindell filed a motion to dismiss, basically claiming that what he said was opinion, and that in any event, Dominion couldn't show actual malice. That case is actually assigned to a Trump-appointed federal judge, Judge Carl Nichols, who denied Lindell's motion to dismiss back like over a year ago at this point, and denied Sidney Powell's motion to dismiss, and Giuliani's motion to dismiss were all denied in connection with the defamation lawsuit filed by Dominion. So now we're in the discovery phase of this litigation, and in the discovery phase, Lindell's been sending out these subpoenas across the country, demanding that information that I just discussed, the electronic data storage from the voting machines and the passwords, and just trying to engage in these real burdensome subpoenas to try to disrupt the operations of these counties. And as this specific county that filed this motion to quash, this is in Michigan, where the Kent County clerk filed a motion to quash the subpoena that was sent to them in connection with the D.C. case. You would file that motion to quash in the court that has jurisdiction over the subpoena. So that's why you may be wondering, well, why is this in front of a Michigan court and not the Washington, D.C. court? And that's because you file it where the jurisdiction lies. So the Western District of Michigan has jurisdiction over Kent County, and Kent County is the fourth most populous county of all of Michigan. And the magistrate judge is the judge who normally would make rulings on discovery disputes between the people. In this case, the discovery dispute is that Mike Lindell served this subpoena on Kent County. Kent County said, look, this is a ridiculous subpoena. We're not giving Mike Lindell, the pillow guy, access to all of this information. And he hasn't even attempted to try to narrow the scope of this in any way. So they filed a motion to quash with the federal judge there, the federal magistrate judge, and that's Judge Philip Green. And Magistrate Judge Philip Green ordered us not only to quash the subpoena, in other words, to stop Mike Lindell's subpoena, but also ordered that Mike Lindell be sanctioned, and requested that Kent County submit its costs in connection with having to fight this ridiculous subpoena that was served by Mike Lindell, and that they will get awarded their costs. So within 14 days, the Kent County clerk will submit the costs that they've now had to endure because of Mike Lindell's actions, and the judge will likely grant that amount, or perhaps some lesser amount, but a significant sanction against Mike Lindell there as well. One of the things that the federal judge says is, quote, "It is eminently demonstrated that the breadth of the subpoena could not be any greater." In the underlying court filings, the county clerk explained that Lindell is asking this court to sanction his mission to look under every bed in America in hopes of finding some monster, even where all evidence tells us that monsters do not exist. Lindell has no evidence to support his conspiracy theory. The county clerk of Kent County also referred continuously to Mike Lindell, and appropriately so, as an election denier in her motion. The court went on to say, quote, "Nothing was done here to try to alleviate the burden on Kent County." The judge went on to say, quote, "I don't want to beat a dead horse. It does look like a fishing expedition. A broad net has been thrown out in various counties across the country." And then the judge ordered that the sanctions issue and that Kent County submit its cost for Mike Lindell serving this frivolous subpoena to them. Now, you may also recall, and I mentioned earlier in the video, that this relates to the defamation lawsuit filed by Dominion against Mike Lindell. The case was brought about a year ago or so. Mike Lindell filed a motion to dismiss. He filed the motion to dismiss on a few grounds. One of the things he argued was that it was protected opinion speech, and that in any event, his conduct as a public figure, that it didn't exhibit malice. He did not do this maliciously. And one of the ways that you can show malice and plead malice is by contending that someone's claims or conduct were, quote, "so inherently improbable that only a reckless man or person would have made them, and that the person who's making the statements intentionally disregarded evidence of their falsity and relied on obviously unreliable sources to try to fit a preconceived narrative." And that is precisely what Dominion alleged in their lawsuit against Mike Lindell. When you go to the ruling denying Mike Lindell's motion to dismiss, which was issued again over a year ago, I'll read it from you because it is very fascinating. This is from the ruling by Judge Carl Nichols, also a Trump-appointed judge, by the way, who denied the motion to dismiss filed by Lindell against Dominion. This is what the court says. Dominion alleges that Lindell has stated, among other things, that Dominion committed, quote, "the biggest crime ever committed in election history against our country and the world, and stole the 2020 election by using an algorithm to flip and weight votes in its machines. That Trump received so many votes that the algorithm broke on election night. That Dominion's voting machines were, quote, built to cheat and, quote, steal elections. That a fake spreadsheet with fake IP and MAC addresses was, quote, a cyber footprint from inside the machines proving that they were hacked, and that Dominion's plot was kept under wraps because the government had not really investigated the claims of election fraud. Parentheses, due to then Attorney General Bill Barr becoming, quote, corrupt and having been compromised." Then the court goes, "As a preliminary matter, a reasonable juror could conclude that the existence of a vast international conspiracy that is ignored by the government but proven by a spreadsheet on an internet blog is so inherently improbable that only a reckless man would believe it. But Dominion also alleges other facts that make those claims even more obviously improbable, or at least indicate that a reasonable juror could conclude that those claims are inherently improbable, including 1. Public statements by election security specialists, Attorney General Bill Barr, numerous government agencies and elected officials. 2. Independent audits. 3. Paper ballot recounts that disproved those claims. Also, Dominion alleges that Lindell was made aware of the countervailing evidence in Dominion's retraction letters, and instead of reconsidering his claims in light of the mountain of evidence against them, doubled down and, quote, dared Dominion to sue him. To be sure, a demand letter that is ignored without more does not demonstrate actual malice, but here the complaint rests on much more than Lindell's refusal to retract. It also alleges that Lindell recklessly disregarded the truth by relying on obviously problematic sources to support a preconceived narrative he had crafted for his own profit. Dominion alleges that the evidence on which Lindell did rely contains glaring discrepancies. Lindell, like Powell, relied on, quote, the forensic expert who had provided, quote, materially false information in support of his claims of vote manipulation, and who had claimed that George Soros, President George H.W. Bush's father, the Muslim Brotherhood, and, quote, leftists all had a role in forming the Nazi deep state in the 1930s. As for the spreadsheet, Lindell tweeted as, quote, evidence that, quote, the President Trump got around 79 million votes to less votes for Biden, Dominion alleges that the spreadsheet is obviously fake. In particular, the complaint alleges, although the spreadsheet purports to list IP addresses for election hackers and their targets, the listed target IP addresses are actually the addresses for the website of a county in a swing state, not for a voting machine or device. And according to Dominion, the addresses in the spreadsheet, which should identify the specific devices, are not even MAC addresses that exist. And they go on to explain Lindell's profit motive is that appealing to Trump supporters would be good for his business. And then the court on those grounds and others denied Lindell's motion to dismiss. And so here you have the fascist pillow guy who Donald Trump has endorsed to run the RNC, has now been sanctioned by a court in Michigan for a federal lawsuit that he filed in a federal court in Washington, D.C. And what it seems like going to happen now is other counties are going to do the same exact thing that Kent County did, and Lindell's going to be on basically like his version of like a summer rock tour. Like he's going to have his version of like a sanction tour, where he's going to go around to different counties and just be sanctioned now over and over and over again. But that is MAGA, right? It is a group of grifter losers who do not follow the rules, who think that they are above the law, who think that there shouldn't be laws, and who just spread wild conspiracies. And fortunately, our judiciary system is holding, which is why it's important that we do these reviews collectively about the law, about what's happening in our courts and our legal system, to make sure that the wheels of justice are moving in the right direction and that we hold people accountable who try to violate our laws. We believe in law and order in our pro-democracy coalition, unlike the MAGA extremist radicals who don't believe in law and order. Anyway, I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit the subscribe button. On our way to 1 million subscribers, thanks to you. Please consider hitting the subscribe button. And in addition, maybe join our Patreon. Become a member there. Go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. There's lots of great exclusive content that you can only get on our Patreon website. But most importantly, it helps grow this independent media platform. We're not funded by any outside investors. So we do this together wherever you are in the world. Let's join together. And if you can, become a member of Patreon. It goes a long way. If not, no worries. But definitely hit the subscribe button. Please hit the subscribe button. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Until next time.
MeidasTouch is unapologetically pro-democracy. And look, we know you are too. So please make sure you check out our best-selling shirt and our best-selling gear, the unapologetically pro-democracy gear. And hey, while you're at it, make sure you check out my favorite shirt and one of our most famous designs. It wasn't rigged, you're just a loser. At store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.